Welcome back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. It's yet another amazing interview and one I've been looking forward to having because when I say I was growing up, I'm 40 now. So in 2006-ish time, what was it? Nearly 20 years. I'd have been, 20-ish. And a group showed up on my TV screen when I was watching wrestling. It kind of, their group was synonymous with the fact that they brought back a faction of the Attitude Era that I absolutely loved in DX. We'll get into all of that. There's so much fun and games to talk about. But you may know him as Spirit Squad member Mikey, but it's Mike Mondo on the show. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing very well, man. Thanks a lot for having me on your show, Adam. It's pleasure's mine, and looking forward to going back down memory lane and kind of reliving some of the events that went down.
It seems mad, Mike. It's been nearly 20 years since the Spirit Squad. We're going to get into the backstory about all that stuff as well, but nearly 20 years since the Spirit Squad come on the TV, and everyone's had differing sort of career paths since then. But how in 2024 though, now we're sort of going to obviously we come off the back of a massive pay-per-view at the weekend with the WWE at SummerSlam.
Sure.
What are your thoughts of wrestling in 2024? And has the fact that there is more variety available now helped the wrestling industry on?
Absolutely. I mean, well, like you just kind of said it best. Like you just said, the key word right there is variety, and I always think like competition's a good thing. It kind of keeps people on their toes, keeps people in check and stuff like that. And it's great for the employers as well as great for the wrestlers. And when I say the employers, like the promoters and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I mean, you look at like across the line, like what do you have? You got WWE, you got TNA, you got AEW, you got NWA, you got Ring of Honor. I mean, I don't know if I'm missing anything else, but you get the point there.
Yeah.
And it's great because that just makes more jobs available, for the talent and stuff like that. And I think we're on an upswing as far as the business is concerned. There's more places to go, more places to work, and more opportunity for people to make a living in the professional wrestling industry, sports entertainment industry. And I think that's nothing but great things and good things, and just how just the business has evolved and it's come to today. And it's just really like a remarkable, just like machine that's running. I mean, it's great that you got like two platforms such as AEW and WWE that's on like a nationwide, total, it almost seems like back in the day, like you get the WWE or the WWF, I should say, the WCW, so it's like, but I mean, that type of platform where, you can go and you can make good money, in professional wrestling. And I think that's just fantastic, because I mean, you go back some years, right? It was, kind of just like, for a while it was just WWE. That was the only place you can go and make $1 million. But now that it's kind of like things branched out, and like NWA right now is on the up and the rise in full swing. So which is run by Billy Corgan, and I just think it's a great future in where we're at right now in wrestling.
Yeah, big shout out to NWA as well. We work with them and love working with them and TNA, obviously. And we've had some AEW guys on as well. But back in your time, Mike, I'm going to say your time. It feels like I'm talking to you like you're really old, but at my head, it would never have been even thought about that the WWE would work with another promotion at the same time, bringing it together. I know they done it with ECW, but they were kind of together. WCW, they did once they bought it. But what they're doing now with TNA is such a massively great thing for us. I know AEW were the catalyst because they were doing it with all the Japanese companies and New Japan or whatever. But in your time, would that have ever have been even thought about in the WWE to work with TNA as a separate entity, but just bringing people on and swapping shows?
Yeah, I mean, that's something like in professional wrestling, you can never say like, of course, that phrase, never say never,
Yeah,
right? I mean, anything's truly possible. At one time when we were at the Monday Night Wars era, with WCW and WWE,
yeah,
did you ever think for 1 second that one day WWF was going to buy out WCW? And I mean, it was a crazy time, and that was my childhood growing up. You had 1 week WCW was ahead, and then WWF's ahead, and then WCW's on a tear, and then WWF's back, and it was like, what do you watch? I was like taping stuff while watching stuff live. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I think it's such a great I think it's a great thing right now with WWE combining forces with TNA, and again, it's just it shows WWE's logic from like a business standpoint. It's like almost kind of like putting their ego aside a little bit, and it doesn't have to be just us, I mean, like, because there is other great talent out there, and there is just, but the only thing is, it's like there's only a certain amount of spots on a roster, and that's just a fact, right? I mean, there's only X amount of spots on Raw, there's only X amount of spots on SmackDown, there's only X amount of spots on NXT, which is another one I forgot to mention too when I was saying my rant about promotions to work for, because that's a separate brand in itself.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a great deal because, I mean, TNA, obviously they can get, because let's face it, WWE is the Mecca, right? That's the New York Yankees,
Yeah.
And so I think it's a great thing. It's great business for TNA because, they get the rub off of WWE, and it also gives a chance for some great talent, that's seen on a certain platform from TNA, because WWE, let's not forget, like they're like a global promotion, so they're getting seen everywhere. So it gets more eyes on the talent, with TNA, and I think WWE's product is the trade off and the benefit because they get the product's always going to be fresh, because they can always take somebody here and plant them there or trade them here, and it almost like goes back to the territory days back way then when they did talent exchanges, like they would send Andre to a different territory in exchange for another top guy, and then do a run, and then do business, and then kind of trade them off back, and it was just like that. That's how it was. So it's almost like kind of like the territory logic a little bit kind of being implemented today, only in 2024 terms. So I think it's just great business all around. I think all promotions benefit, the product benefits, and ultimately the talent benefits.
Definitely so. And you mentioned territories. I mean, NWA have now created separate territories for companies like obviously EC3 Exodus Pro. You got the Page sisters that are running Crossfire Wrestling. There's Joe Kazana and Joe Kazana Promotion. So they're doing that together as well. I think we've just watched NWA. We just literally just reviewed NWA's show this week with one of my colleagues, and they're going to have shows called Back to the Territories where they bring them together all for a show so we can see some of the new talents, up and coming talents on these other promotions, and we've interviewed some as well. But that's the beauty of it now, isn't it? That who's to say that at Bound for Glory, when it ever happens, that AJ Styles won't rock up again on TNA TV? And I really think that's such a good thing, because as a wrestling fan, as much as I love, obviously I love watching wrestling, it doesn't really matter who it is, but like the fact that I could watch TNA one week and all of a sudden, I don't know, LA Knight or Eli Drake, as he was called, just rocks up and just defends the United States Championship on that show. It just makes it so much exciting and makes it more, I wouldn't say it makes it more appealing, but it's just anything can happen now.
Right there, and that you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. It's just what you said. It's that suspense factor. It's like it's like almost you feel like now, instead of seeing like just the show and you're expected to see like just your normal key talent, now it kind of like forces kind of like the viewer, even like through the subconscious sometimes, it's like, what, oh man, Monday night's coming on, or like Friday night, I have to tune in because I just don't know, and one of the element in professional wrestling that's always great, I remember even when I was a kid, it's just that element of surprise. It was like like back in the day when you're watching Nitro, and all of a sudden you see Scott Hall and Kevin Nash coming through the crowd, and it was like, whoa, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, this is not something that was advertised. This is not something that was booked. It was just kind of something spontaneous and on the fly. And it was just like, but it made you want to tune in because ultimately you want to see what's happening next. And they leave you hanging just like any other great television show and make you want to tune in the following week. And I think that's just so smart on everyone's part.
Yeah, definitely so. I'm watching WCW over here when you said that. We spoke to Buff Bagwell probably about a year ago, and he was telling us about sometimes they didn't even know backstage what was going on, and that
Right.
Scott Hall rocks up on Nitro, and they're like, "What is the hell is going on?" So even sometimes the talent are in a bit of didn't even know what was going on themselves. But you mentioned your childhood, and you are literally about the same age as me, so we're kind of growing up in the same era when we talk about this. But initially,
Oh, yeah.
let's start talking about you now. When you were growing up, what was your first taste of wrestling on TV when you were growing up as a kid?
That's a great question. I mean, and honestly, this is a shoot too, because I mean, it may sound like, well, how do you believe this when you're like 4 years old? But I do remember a glimpse of um, when it was I don't know what show it was, but it was WWF, and I know that. And I just remember I was like apparently I was 4 years old, and I remember sitting in my dad's lap, and I remember seeing it was Hulk Hogan. My dad was explaining to me who Hulk Hogan was, and I remember just being so like just excited, and like it was just like a feeling of just I don't know how to explain. I guess joy, but like it was like something that was like I was just almost like hooked from like such an early age. And a funny story is because I remember telling my dad, my dad was like, like it was intriguing, like Hulk Hogan's tights. It was like, man, am I like, the color yellow with I want those tights, And my dad's like, I have those tights. And I'm like, what? And I remember my dad taking me to his room. And he's like, yeah, I'll show them to you. And like I remember him picking me up, and he opened up his dresser, and like he goes, see, those are Hulk Hogan's tights. And it was just like a checkered bathing suit with all different colors, but it had like the piece of yellow for like a little triangle on it. Is yeah, those are Hulk Hogan's tights. I'm like, I remember thinking those aren't Hulk Hogan's tights. You know what I mean? But I mean, from my early recollection, I remember that was my first experience with professional wrestling. I remember sitting in my dad's lap watching Hulk Hogan. Might have been like WWF Saturday Night Main Event or something like that. But yeah, it was just an incredible feeling. And I remember like going forward too, as I got a little bit older, I'd be flipping through the channels on my parents' couch, and it was like I just remembered like whenever wrestling came on, like it just felt like I know for a fact I kept it on. Like I wasn't flipping through the channels again after that. It was like just like a feeling of like I don't know. It was just like I love this stuff. I don't know what it is, why I like it because I'm so young, but I'm really intrigued by it, and I don't want the show to end. And I never knew when it was going to come on. It was always like by luck if I just keep flipping through the channels. And then as I got older again, it was like WWF like Mania on Saturday, and then Wrestling Challenge on Sunday, and Superstars on Saturday at 12. And then finally the first Monday Night Raw Monday night. So I was kind of getting the idea now when it was on, and I made sure to tune into every single show. And it was just like, and I was glued to the TV. Like it was like even my parents were starting to notice like this. He really likes wrestling, And now I wanted all the toys. I wanted all the wrestling buddies. And if something if I say like I misbehaved in school or something, like the punishment was they took away wrestling now. You know what I mean? Because like they knew that would get to me. I won't mess up again.
Yeah, well,
But yeah, man, it was just that was my earliest recollection. That honestly I was a Hulkamaniac growing up, loved Hulk Hogan, and then as I got older, still a fan. Bret the Hitman Hart was my guy, and loved Bret. It was yeah, it was like that if me and my buddies were wrestling in the backyard or were wrestling on my parents' bed with the wrestling buddies, I was always Bret Hart, and that was my guy growing up.
quite
Mm-hmm.
interesting. You mentioned about school, and I remember I got sent home. It was non-uniform days, the day where you can dress, you can dress down, and this was in the Attitude Era. So we're pushing a bit further ahead. I'll tell you about my first recollection of wrestling in a minute, and it was
Yeah.
a Stone Cold shirt with a skull doing that. So clearly, clearly not the best
There you
idea.
go, right?
Clearly not the best idea. But I remember my first recollection because obviously over here we had to wait until we got Sky because obviously it was never. You used to have like World of Sport, which was the Brit like Giant Haystacks and people like that, Big Daddy. And I remember getting Sky for the first time, and I'd never seen British wrestling before. I'd never seen it, and I remember flicking through. I can't remember the order, but I remember certain things. So I remember when Earthquake squashed Hulk Hogan for the first time.
Oh yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
remember when Earthquake squashed Jake Snake.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the Macho Man getting bit by the snake. I
Mm-hmm.
vividly remember the time when Jake Roberts had the Ultimate Warrior down in the basement or whatever, and it was the Undertaker. It was the whole Undertaker thing with
Yeah, I
Warrior.
remember that. I was
Yeah,
actually just saw clips of that recently. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I remember the Royal Rumble, and I think it was Warrior against Sergeant Slaughter, and the Savage hit Warrior in the head with a scepter.
The
And it,
Scepter.
yeah,
Yeah, I was listening to Bruce Pritchard's podcast earlier, well, the other day, and they were talking about the whole the Scepter
oh, really?
experience, and yeah, like they were talking about like how the Wrestling Observer was analyzing the match, and according to the Wrestling Observer, like the best part about that match was pretty much the people that weren't actually involved in the match, and that was like the Macho Man and Sherry, how they just kept on playing an integral part when Warrior and Slaughter, were having their match and everything like that. And yeah, I remember Macho Man just blasting Warrior with that scepter, and like glass was actually stuck in his like forehead and his hair, and and then apparently later on in the podcast they were saying that later on, like his Warrior had to take another one of those shots, and I guess he requested to wear like a hat with a padding in it because I guess because of the experience of Savage blasting him with the. I mean, I was trying to think, how do you gimmick that? That looked pretty legit.
Yeah, it is. I can't sometimes I can never like imagine how they gimmick a lot of things. I mean, in wrestling, because
Yeah,
there was one on AEW just a couple of weeks when they done the cage, and it was an open headed, it was one of those unprotected shots to the head, which I'm a little bit I've never liked.
sure,
I've never liked even during when The Rock done it with Foley and things like that, gimmick or no gimmick.
right.
And I just remember hearing that noise on, I think it was Jack Perry, I think he was handcuffed to the cage. And it took me back to Dreamer and Raven in ECW.
Oh, when he
When
was handcuffed to the cage
yeah,
and he,
yeah, yeah,
the chair, right? Wasn't
yeah,
the kendo stick, the chair,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
It was just
Yeah.
gorgeous. I was just wow.
Yeah.
It just brought me back to those memories of the Attitude Era back way
No,
back.
it does, man. I remember when you were talking about Earthquake too, man.
Yeah,
He's such a nice guy, John Tenton, man. But like, I remember as a kid too, same thing what you were saying. Like Earthquake, he was like such a threat, like Hulk Hogan had to overcome like this big adversity, this big behemoth, and Earthquake was just crushing people, and so I definitely really remember that. And I remember the moment when Hogan just slammed Earthquake, and he beat. And they used to have a stretcher match back then. You remember
yeah,
that? They would advertise
yeah,
a stretcher match,
yeah.
and I was always like, oh wow, that's an interesting concept. I wonder how you win that match. As a kid, but that was such a big feud. And then just going back, we were talking about with Jake and the Warrior, right? And then that transition with the Undertaker, man, those are such great memories, man. Like I miss my childhood. I think so I look back at those times and it just makes me, whenever I get in a rut today, because we have good days, we have bad
Yeah,
days, right? I just go back to those times because the WWE Network has everything now, and or YouTube for that matter. And I just go back and it just rejuvenates me. It makes me realize why I love wrestling to begin with and why I got into the business. And like, it just, kind of like makes me like want to have fun again,
yeah, definitely. The other thing I remember just before we get into when it started for you was the model spraying Jake Roberts with fragrance. What was it called? What was is it Arrogance? Was that what
Oh, it was, hold on. It was, I know this. The freight,
I'm sure it was Arrogance. Is that what it was called?
it's going to hit me too. Hold on.
I have to use Google.
It's on the tip of my tongue. Do you know it or no?
I thought it was Arrogance, but I'm going to find
Arrogance. It's
it
arrogance.
was Arrogance, wasn't it? It was Arrogance.
Arrogance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What a great gimmick. I thought that was a great gimmick. The model, Rick Martel.
It was
You know what I
good.
mean?
It was good.
And like the perfect guy to pull it off too.
It was awesome. I remember SummerSlam '92 over here in the UK. That was my first ever wrestling event, SummerSlam '92.
Oh, 92. That was good. Brett and Bulldog, man.
Yeah.
Oh, what a match. Yeah.
That was amazing. Legion of Doom coming down on the Harleys with Paul Ellering. I mean, geez.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That was great. That was also Savage and Flair. Was Savage? No, that was WrestleMania. Savage Warrior. Savage, no, was it?
No, it wasn't Warrior. I can't. I'm gonna forget now. I'm not gonna be happy. I'm gonna have to go to the realms of the.
Yeah, I gotta go back.
Because I can't. I'm very. My brain's not what it used to be.
Right. No, Wembley, man, Wembley Stadium. Wasn't there?
Yeah.
There was an event recently there, wasn't there?
All in.
Wembley.
All in.
Yeah.
AEW. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one for me. Well, not a good one for me because I was meant to attend All In, and I suffered heart failure the week before, and I missed it.
Oh, really?
I did, and I missed it.
Oh, man, you okay?
Yeah. So it's been a year, near enough been a year to the day. But I done it, and I remember because I got discharged from the hospital the day before, and I was like, great, I'm coming home. I'm going back to watch All In, and there was a train strike, so I couldn't get there.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was Rick Martel, Shawn Michaels in a single.
Rick Martel, Shawn Michaels. Yep.
Yeah, it was Natural Disasters and the Beverly Brothers. There we go. So, and it was
Yeah,
Warrior
yeah.
Savage. It was Warrior Savage by count out.
It was Warrior Savage, right?
Yeah, by count
I
out.
thought so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Crush and Repo Man.
Crush and Repo Man, yeah.
It's a tongue
I was a fan of
twister.
Crush. Hell yeah.
Yeah, Crush, brilliant, right? I loved it.
The
Yeah,
Cranium Crunch, baby.
I never forget. I never forget the one with Doink when they done the double Doink at Mania 9. You know when they had literally that. Yeah, yeah, exactly that. You nailed it. Yeah, you got it on the head. I love
No,
that.
no, pop quiz. Do you know who the other Doink was? Was Matt Bourne, and you know who the other?
Ah, I can't remember who it was. No, you're gonna have to tell me.
Yeah. Steve
No.
Kern.
Oh,
Yeah.
Steve Skinner, right?
Yeah, yeah.
God.
And spoiler alert, I was actually a Doink the Clown at one point
Was you?
in my
Where was
career.
this?
This was in FCW when I was after my Spirit Squad run. We were taking back, to repackage ourselves in FCW, and we were starting to run live events. FCW was just starting to come up again,
Yeah.
and we didn't have any quote unquote like names, on the card. And Steve asked me, he's like, "Hey, I want to get like a kind of like a marquee name on there." And he's like, "I got my suit with me. Do you want to be Doink the Clown and wrestle on some of the house show live events?" And me being like, the fan back in the day that I was, like we were just talking about, I'm like, hell freaking yeah. So I wrestled a couple of guys as Dawn. Jack Swagger was one of them, which we actually had a really good match.
Yeah.
But I remember going home and watching Doink the Clown tapes and just kind of like studying, just like his mannerisms and just like how he moves. Because I wanted to, if I do something, I go, I got both feet in. I want to embrace it and do the best that I can. But anyway, I remember Steve Kern, he would paint my face before the shows. And then it was either he had two types. He had house show Doink, which was a much faster version of the paint. But if you wanted to do pay-per-view Doink, you're sitting in that chair for about 2 hours because he goes into like such detail. But man, it was on point. I have pictures. It's on one of my old phones. I got to retrieve it, but I so bad want to find it and post one of them up there. It was a lot of fun being Doink the Clown.
Wow, that's amazing. It's that nostalgic feeling as well, though, isn't it? Like
It was the legit outfit,
oh, man,
because a lot of people play Doink on the indies these days, but it's they're handmade outfits. But this was like the actual Doink the Clown wig, the actual suit.
Amazing.
Like I look pro style Doink the Clown.
That's incredible. You need to dig those pictures out, Mike. I need to see them. They would be awesome.
Hell yeah, I know. It's on my Trio of all things. Like that phone, the Trio was like back in the day,
Oh, that is crazy. I need to see that. Let's get back into it. So obviously you was a big fan as a kid. You mentioned Hogan. At what point did you say, I love this so much that I want to try it and do it?
Okay, yeah. See, but when I was a kid, obviously, being a fan, I always thought pro wrestling was real. You know what I mean? So it was like, and I was kind of a late bloomer actually when I kind of figured out it was sports entertainment work, whatever you want to call it. But when I found out it was like, oh, okay, it's a work, oh, maybe I can do this now. Because if it was real, I'd probably get my ass handed to me, But no, I always knew I wanted to get into the wrestling business in my life. As a kid, I'm talking about now, we're going to like middle school, ninth grade, say. But I never knew when I was going to get into the wrestling business. That's the key thing there, because I had two dreams in life. To be in the NFL or to be in the WWE. Those are my two dreams. Now, my childhood growing up, I was always, into sports, and I narrowed it down where I just focused on football. I was like obsessed. I loved it. It was like football and wrestling. That was like my life and working out, So basically, to make a long story short, kind of, again, I always knew I wanted to be in the wrestling business. I just didn't know when, but when I graduated high school, my plan was to go to college and play football, because wrestling will always be there, and I'll still be young enough to get into the wrestling business, I figured. But unfortunately, my SATs weren't where they were supposed to be, and I wasn't NCAA eligible. And I had some colleges that wanted me to play for them, but my grades weren't up to par, like on that level where I'm at least NCAA eligible. So I had to do what you call to a community school, which was Suffolk Community College in Long Island, New York. and they told me I had to do at first. They told me, I remember clearly, I had to do 1 year, and then after 1 year, it doesn't matter your SATs because you got college credit. Then you could transfer and go play wherever you want, right? So I did my 1 year, and then I was like, okay, I want to figure out how to transfer and play ball now, you know. And then for some reason, and I don't know why, but that 1 year turned into 2 years. I had to do 2 years now, and I'm like, okay, well. So I did my 2 years, but then I thought to myself, you know what? I think I feel it. It was in my heart. Like it was time. It was. I knew I wanted to do it. I always wanted to do it, but now it was telling me to take the action. And that was when I took the action when I was 18, and I just started my second year in college because. And the reason why I did it was because I always believed the younger you are, the better chance you have to put yourself in a position to succeed, to actually make it. That was my goal. Like I said before, my second goal, my two dreams, NFL and WWE.
Yep.
So that's when I made this. I was still going to school, and that's when I finally found a wrestling school, and my heart was telling me to take the action. And I talked to my family about it, and they were supportive. And then I figured, okay, I'll just finish out this second year, and then if I can play ball then, because then I can go back to wrestling later. But once I got into wrestling, man, it just happened. Like everything just went so fast, And then before you knew it, it was like, you know what? Maybe football's not meant to be. Pro wrestling is where it's at. And then I just kind of continued my career, and then everything just snowballed after that. To answer the question about where I started, because I'm sure that's maybe what you're thinking next, is that I found the school that I found was Critical Mass Pro Wrestling in Long Island, New York.
Yep.
Yep. I went to an independent show at a firehouse by my house because I was actually looking it was AOL at the time, I was looking on the internet, and I remember looking up the Wild Samoan School in Pennsylvania. I remember I was just like the WCW Power Plant. And at one time I remember looking up Warrior University. Remember that one?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but I was looking for a reputable place, that would train you right, not take your money, and just kind of just care, and put me in the best position to achieve my dreams and goals. And then a guy by the name of John Chain came up to me because that was funny because at intermission, I was like going up to the rings. I wanted to get in the ring and just because I had that itch, and some of the boys thought I was a wrestler because I was a pretty big guy, I was working out and stuff. And I was just a fan watching the show. And I said, but I do want to be a wrestler, and said, well, let me introduce you to somebody in the back, and they took me in the back and they introduced me to a guy named John Kurst, who was the owner of the now NYWC Wrestling School. Then it was called Critical Mass. And he gave me a couple dates and times to come down. I remember I went down. I remember walking in that garage door in Hicksville, Long Island, and everyone was just kind of like staring at me. And I just felt like, okay, but I saw that ring and I was like, man, I want to get in that ring. I'm ready to go, And then 2 days later, I came down, paid my tuition in full, because that's just how I did things. I didn't want to do payments. I was serious about it, and my parents, they would tell me with my tuition and everything, because like I said, they were very supportive, and I'm grateful to have a great family and support system when it comes to wrestling and stuff like that. They were supported everything I did in life. So they said, look, we'll give you a choice here. We'll either pay for your wrestling tuition, and then you're on your way. And if this is what you want to do in life, or, we'll help you out with college, if you want to still continue to do that, And I was like, no, I want to be a wrestler. This is what I want to do. I am all in. They were like, okay. So they wrote the check, paid them. And then that's the end of the story. 18 years old, signed up at Critical Mass Pro Wrestling in Hicksville, Long Island, New York. And that's where I started.
Wow. I did do some training when I was 18 myself. It was in Essex. It was called Drop Kicks Wrestling School. It didn't last long. I very, very quickly and painfully realized that it definitely wasn't for me. But 32 years later, 32 years later with the podcast, we now are in wrestling and we have a championship in wrestling. So I can at least say that I've got a championship in wrestling. It's defined.
Boy.
There you go. I'm never going to go for the championship, but it is in which I'm really happy about. You did eventually, I think it was around February 05. You went, I think it was 05, or you went to OVW. That was your first, after a few years of going in, you went into OVW. What was that first initial? It might have even been early, it might have been to '04, maybe back end of '04. But what was the if you remember it, what was that first initial? Because obviously the OVW was always the prologue near enough to WWE at this point. It was '04, not '05, my bad. When you first got in there and you're like, okay, this is near enough. You got OVW, and then the next step up is where you want to be. What was that?
Sure.
Do you remember what that first initial reaction was when you got that call from OVW to go in?
Sure. I can tell you the story how I got the call if you want.
Yeah, yeah, go. Yeah,
Okay. So, here I am, right? Remember, I was telling you before, everything kind
yeah,
of snowballed and happened so fast, right? And that's why
yeah,
kind of football was like, all right, I don't think that's meant to be. This is meant to be. So, one of my first friends that I made in wrestling was a guy by the name of Pat Buck,
yeah.
who's actually the vice president, or he's in talent relations now at
AEW.
AEW.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he used to wrestle under the name of Ruth Star,
yes,
and he was like my first like wrestling buddy, like we were really tight and friends. And we knew OVW was like the minor league system to WWE, and that's where that's pretty much where you need to be. You know what I mean? If you want to get to that next step, which is WWE.
yeah,
So I remember again, we were just AOL and Messenger. We were just talking, and I give Pat the credit for this one because he sent me a link, and it was OVW tryout camp, and it was a week long. It was $1,000. You have to fly yourself down there, but they put you up in a hotel, and you pretty much train for the week. And it's an opportunity to get your foot in the door at OVW. So I remember I took this proposition to my parents, and I explained it to them. Hey, look, this is the WWE minor league system. This is really ultimately where I want to be. So I think I really need to do this. And Pat decided he was going to do it. And that's, like I said, we were really close. So if he's going to do it, then I got to do this, because I figured he knows what's up. You know what I mean? So I put a lot of my trust in him. And so we did that together, and we flew down. It was a week-long camp that was run by Dr. Tom Pritchard, Jim Cornette, Danny Davis, Rocky Johnson was there at the time, Rip Rogers, and dude, what a camp, man! It was awesome. But man, that was probably like one of the most nervous times of my life, though, because it was like even like how I got in the ring, I just wanted that to be perfect. Like I just wanted to do everything spot on, not mess up, like hit a home run. So we did the camp. We flew home. And then 2 weeks later, I remember I was at wrestling practice, and I was talking outside to a buddy of mine, and I got a phone call, and it was Jim Cornette. And Jim Cornette, told me, he's like, Mike, we think you have a lot of potential. I'm calling, so I want to offer you an opportunity to come down to OVW and train in the advanced class. So I'll be training with the contract guys. I'll be doing TV every week, every Wednesday night, do the live events on the weekend, the spot shows, and practice 5 days a week. Now he goes, we're not offering you a contract, but you have to come down here, get a job, like live, like do your own thing. But we want to offer you this opportunity to come down and pretty much get my foot in the door, pretty much.
yeah.
And I was blabber, like I was like on the floor, like so happy, like I was like, this, I freaking got in. And when I went down there, man, like it was intimidating because I mean these guys were like, this is the era where they were just guys like jacked, and they were like 6'4", 6'6". I was a freaking what was I 5'7", a buck 80. I don't know what I was, but it was a lot smaller than what they were. But I don't know, man. I guess they saw my heart. I remember cutting a promo, and that really stuck out to them. Rob Conway still jokes about it and talks to me that day because I remember being in the promo room, and he goes, "Yeah, man, I remember you just ripping your shirt off, going, it's gut check time." You know what I mean? And it was like, yeah. So it was just like I guess I just saw potential. They saw potential in me, and so basically what I did after that was I finished out the semester in school. So I did a year and a half. So I didn't technically graduate it, but I just finished out the semester because like a couple weeks left. And then I packed my bags from Long Island and just relocated. And my parents helped me out with the move and everything. And they got me situated. I got a serving job working at Logan's Roadhouse. I remember my roommate was Jillian Hall at the time. I remember yeah. And Tank Tolan, remember him?
Yes.
Like he was another one of my roommates, and Cypress Point Apartments in Louisville. And yeah, man, and that was just the next chapter of my career because that OVW chapter it's a big chapter because there's a lot of different like eras in that chapter. But what a special time. And OVW is where I really learned how to work and learn the art of professional wrestling. I always had an idea, and like when I was training at NYWC, which I'm very grateful for, and everything they taught me. John taught me a lot. One of my best friends, Dickie Rods, taught me a lot. Mike Mayhem, my other trainer,
Yeah.
he taught me a lot of the high flying stuff. But where in OVW is where I really learned how to work and learn how to tell a story and learn psychology and learn how to work for the match, and build the match and learn how to work a body part, wrestle with the body part. I mean, I credit OVW, and I tell everybody this. It's like the Harvard School of Pro Wrestling of colleges. I mean, that is where you learn. I mean, and what an education I got, man. What a ride, and I'm very grateful for that place. But I remember, I moved down there and I got a job, practice 5 days a week, TV every Wednesday, live events every weekend. And it was actually probably, if you think about it, one of the last territories to ever exist in wrestling, because all the other territories were no more, right? It was just at that time, that was the 2003 or 4, like you said, it was just WWF, right? WWE.
WWE, yeah.
Was TNA around then? I don't even know. But anyway, not yet, right? So, man, it was just WWE, and it was like, here I am. And then I want to say I was 19 when I got there. And that's where it all started. And that's how I got my foot in the door with OVW.
Interesting. Before we continue with OVW, I need to ask about a gimmick of yours, Livewire. Tell us all about that.
Livewire, from Gordon Heights, New York.
That's right. Yes. Go on, tell us about.
I can tell you how I can tell you a story how I got that name.
Go for it.
Yeah. All right. So I was telling you, like, again, rewind. Wrestling my friends in my backyard. Of course, backyard wrestling, right? Which I don't condone for anyone listening, but anyway, that's what I did. We had this federation, and it was like cool. And I remember one of my good friends, Anthony Amoroso, who went to high school together. I kind of looked up to him with wrestling because he was extremely wrestling like knowledge. He was an ECW guy. I remember his favorite was Taz, and he was just anyway. His wrestling name was Michael Messiah, and it's like I don't want to be Mike Brenly. I need a wrestling name. So he thought about it, and again, I had like a good look to me, and he's like, "What do you think about?" And he was thinking about it. He's like, the embodiment of excellence, Christian Livewire. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's the name. That's good, So my wrestling name here in the backyard was the embodiment of excellence. Which actually sounds pretty cool when you think about it. Christian Livewire, and I guess Christian because I'm a Christian, and Livewire. I don't know where he got Livewire, but it's Livewyre.
Yeah.
Just to make that clear. And then anyway, so then I got into pro wrestling, and there was a guy by the name of Tyler Payne, who's also one of the head trainers down at NYWC or Critical Mass, whatever you want to call. And he was telling me I was about to make my pro debut, which my first match ever was against Grim Reaper. If you ever heard of him, great wrestler, awesome wrestler. And but he's like, yeah, what do you think if we just shortened it and just call you Livewire? Never mind the embodiment of excellence, never mind Christian, just Livewire. And me not knowing anything, but still had the common sense to be like, if that's what you want, yes, just shut your mouth and do what you're told. You know what I mean? You're the greenhorn, just shut up and listen, just do what they say. And that attitude comes with my background, just being in sports, listen to your coaches, you know what I mean? Just take suggestions and stuff. So that's how it happened. And that's how Livewire came about. And then when I went to OVW, that changed again. And that's another story how Mike Mondo came about. But I'll let you lead this train wreck. So it's up to you.
We'll get into that. There was one. There's two guys. Well, there's one match in particular, or two matches in particular. I just want to pick your brains about it. It was both in JCW or UWA. The first one was in JCW Gets Lucky at Lucky's nightclub, and the second match you had with this guy was at JCW It All Ends Here, same place, against Jay Lethal. You may know.
Yeah, I had a feeling that name was going to come out. Yeah. That's good. Because I actually am so happy because recently I got those matches on YouTube.
Yes.
So they're out there on YouTube. And I watched them back, you know what I mean? And it was like, wow, man, because Jay's a great wrestler. You know,
Mm.
Jay, and I'm really happy for his success now. He's in AEW kicking ass. But yeah, man, Jay Lethal, like he was the first quote unquote program that I've ever had.
Mm.
And JCW was the let's not count Critical Mass NYWC because that's my school, right?
Yeah.
JCW, which was run by Simon Diamond at the time, and Ricky O, I want to say. It was Ricky O, actually, I remember for sure. But yeah, Jay Lethal was the first program I had, and we did a trilogy of matches.
Yeah.
And like you just mentioned, those two, the Lucky's nightclub. I remember that. That's funny. And yeah, it was. I think the first two were normal matches, and the third match was a 2 out of 3 falls match.
Lumberjack, I got it as. I don't know if that's right.
Was that 2 out of 3 falls?
No, the third match I've got was in it was a Demand Respect, and it was I got it down as Lumberjack. I could be wrong.
Lumberjack. Never mind. You're right. You're right. I knew it was a gimmick match.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah. I knew it was a gimmick match. And yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember like the finish to one was like I think I was in a trio woe or something. He was, and he gave me like a German suplex or something. But yeah, man, Jay, we clicked. We had great matches. And then like if you really want to go story wise, like later on when we were older, you know, we had some more matches in Ring of Honor
Yeah.
together, and we kicked ass, you know. So yeah, me and Jay have a nice timeline, and it was cool to be able to dance with them back then when we were just kids. And John Shane, my manager, who was just awesome. You know, what a great guy. The guy I credit for him finding the wrestling school for me to begin with, because it wasn't for him, I never would have found that school. Who knows where I would have ended up, and who knows where my career would have ended up, because you know everything in life happens for a reason. And you know, if it wasn't for John, maybe the dots wouldn't have connected to where I am today, you know. But he was a great talker, a great manager, and he really he helped guide me. And yeah, I remember JJ's mom got involved in the match, kind of like, and he's had moments where his mom got in the match like later on, but I think I was like one of the first ones. I think he did it with low key before me, but like I was one of the first where, you know, and yeah, she slapped the taste out of John Shane, and then me and you know, and I'm freaking going after the mom, but then Jay freaking tackles me, and it was just a lot of cool drama, you know. But fun times. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, did you realize back then, like, because you said you were just kids, but could you, because obviously sometimes you can just, you see a wrestler when you get in there like Jay Lethal and you just know that he's destined for greatness. Was it clear at that point that he was going to be there he is now?
I do. I'm not surprised by his success at all. You know, I kind of put Jay like in the same category as kind of like myself a little bit, where like it wrestling was just very natural for us. You know what I mean? Like it just you didn't have to play tug of war to make us understand things at such a young age, you know? Like for me, I know if you told me to do, like, if you show me how to do a side headlock takeover, I'll get in there on the first try, do a side headlock takeover and be like, yep, well, that's it. Good job, you know?
Yeah.
And do a drop kick. Oh, okay. That's it. All right, let's move on, you know? Like, so I was able to understand and get things. And I think, and I can't speak for Jay because I wasn't training with him, but when I wrestled him, I got the vibes that he was kind of like very similar to me in that aspect. He was just able to pick up things really fast, really quick. You know, he was a wrestling fan like myself as a kid growing up. And I think, you know, so it's like he didn't come into this like blindsided, you know, like he actually had like a little bit of a clue from basically watching it on TV as a kid. And that's basically what I did when I got into wrestling. I just emulated really what I saw on TV. You know what I mean? Okay. Like, well, this is how they did it on Raw. And okay, cool. Let me try it that way. Yep. Okay, cool. You know, I just Jay's probably a type, and again, I don't know, but I can guess Jay's the type of guy that like when he watches it, he probably studies it like me. You know, it's like, you know, I used to watch wrestling tapes and like, you know, rewind, okay, play, rewind, play. Like I wanted to like, I wasn't just watching the show, I was like embracing and trying to learn and self-teach me for when that opportunity finally comes where I can be prepared to present myself and do the best I can when they tell me to do something. So, and then obviously with maturity, with age, with experience, to answer your question, yeah, man, no, it's no surprise to me at all where he's at right now.
No, definitely. So I'm a bit like when I watch wrestling, I'm more of like a tunnel vision. Like I know you get chants and everyone up and down, but I'm literally match goes on and I'm literally like that. and I won't. I
Yeah.
block out what's around me and just
Yeah.
literally focus on what's going on. So I like to pick up little things. Listen, I'm not a
Like watching wrestling in Japan, right? Just silent and just watching it,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly that. I'm not by no means a wrestler. I like wrestling, and what my opinion is, no one will care about. But I like to, I just like to pick up little nuances during matches, or because it helps when I'm writing things.
Yeah.
If I'm reviewing a show, for argument's sake, I'm trying to pick out little bits, not negative bits, but bits of matches to like, oh, that was a good, and where they try and tell the story and bits and what they're trying to tell. So yeah, I'm very much a
Yeah.
tunnel vision fan. But let's go back. So
Absolutely.
you were live wire. You was live wire. Enter OVW and the birth of Mike Mondo. Explain how
Boom.
that happens. Here.
All right, the birth of Mike Mondo. Well, okay, so I'm in OVW, right? I'm doing practices 5 days a week. The first week I was there, I remember looking on the TV sheet and I wasn't on. So I watched the show, I remember.
Yeah.
The following week, I looked on the card and I saw myself in a dark match. It said Mike Brenly, my real name, versus Aaron Stevens, who, yeah,
Damien Sandow.
Damien Sandow, right? And it was a good buddy of mine to this day. And he was my first dark match, and I remember it was, I guess, successful because after that, the next week I was on TV doing my thing with Matt Morgan as the Giant Killer Mike Mondo. But to answer your question, how did Mike Mondo come about? So Jimmy Cornette was the booker, matchmaker for OVW. And he wasn't a fan of my real name. It just didn't flow off the tongue for him or whatever. I don't know why, but he just wanted to switch my name up. But he was very big on having Jimmy was big on having like a tagline, like no fear, Mike Mondo, the Giant Killer, like Mike Mondo. You know what I mean? Like like a tag, So I can get into the Giant Killer later, but Mike Mondo came about. Apparently, this is from what I understand, because this is what he told me, is that between my dark match and the following week when I made my debut, he was out and about, I guess, with his wife Stacy, and he was at a flea market, and he saw like a sign, Mondo, and it's like it hit him, the Cornette brilliant brain. That's Mike's name, Mike Mondo, and we'll do this thing with Matt Morgan. He'll go over on him, and he'll be the Giant Killer, Mike Mondo, and that's just really kind of simple as it is that's how the name was born. Because when I wrestled Aaron Stevens, I guess when I first started wrestling, I was very animated, like almost over animated. I was very my body language is very big, my facial expressions were very big, and Jimmy loved that. Like Jimmy, that was the two things that I think Jimmy noticed about me. That's like, because it's a lot easier to say, kid, we got to pull you back a little bit and say, God, kid, give me more. Well, I mean, he didn't tell me to pull back at all, because I mean, Jimmy was a fan of that. But when I look back at now, I was probably a little bit too over the top, But that's just what I did because I was just green, So Mondo means larger than life, means big, extravagant. So I guess by how I was working and my personality and characteristics in the ring, just Mondo, and it just flowed off the tongue, made sense. Mike Mondo, and my name's Mike. So hey, there you go.
Interesting. I was going to say that I saw a couple of bits that you started kind of with against Seth Skyfire as well.
Skyfire, yeah, man. He's if I can give like top 5 favorite opponents, Seth Skyfire is definitely.
Who's the other 4?
What's that?
Who's the other 4? How you said?
Oh, the other 4? Oh my gosh. I had a lot of opponents. I got to think about that, man. But I mean, my partner Johnny Jeter is definitely in there. He's one of them. I've had so many opponents. You got to realize my run in OVW, even like after WWF or WWE, because I went back to OVW afterward, and about 10 years. So. I mean, it's like I really gotta go through. I could just rattle off some great opponents. I know I've had great matches with Mac Johnson. I've had great matches with Mike Taylor. I have great matches with Tank and Cage, Adrenaline. Johnny Jeter, as I just mentioned, Matt Capitelli had great matches with. Aaron Stevens had great matches with. Matt Morgan had great matches with. I've tagged with Shad Gaspard. I've tagged with Heidenreich. I've tagged with Bobby Lashley. I've tagged with Carlos Colon, Carlito. I've tagged with Ziggler. All great tag partners giving me different matches with different elements. Gene Snitsky, Snitsky, he was my younger brother in storyline. He was Mean Gene Mondo at one point. Yeah, I know. Gosh, I mean, I've wrestled Victoria, Mickey James, one hand tied behind my back, in a gimmick match. I hate to leave anyone out because I mean, it was just such a big time. Brent Albright had some good matches with him. Punk. Yeah, I mean, I have to really. That's like a. I have to prepare to answer that question because I got to dig deep
maybe
to
we'll
give a
come
top
back to
five.
it. Maybe we'll come back to it
Yeah,
near the end.
but go ahead.
Oh yeah, but I was going to say, obviously there was a bit with Steph Skyfire, and then
Mm-hmm.
quite quickly, because I remember this vividly, US Bank Arena, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Ring of Honor.
No, 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 no. Very quickly after you was on OVW, 29th of March, I believe, you got to Sunday Night Heat, and
Oh,
you were going against La Resistance with Brett with
yeah, me
Albright.
and Albright.
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
again, you said you've not been at OVW too long at this point. This was before your first Matt Morgan match.
Yeah, yeah,
Before you got against Matt Morgan. So you've only been here, a month or so, a couple of months. And then you get this opportunity. So that obviously, I'd imagine Jim Cornette may have said, "Hey, people have obviously been looking at you at this point because you don't get called up to Sunday. I'd imagine you don't get called up to Sunday Night Heat just for the sake of being called up. There must have been something that they liked about you. When did you realize that you were getting called up? And again, you with the wrestling fan, and you're getting called up to pretty much the pre-show before something, in the
yeah.
WWE. For you, this must have been the moment in a sense.
Oh, it was huge. It was huge. And if I could just, I'll get to that. But if I can
Yeah.
just rewind just a little
Yep.
bit, I had a Sunday Night Heat match. I don't know if you remember. It was against Val Venus.
Yes.
It was actually international heat, which you may have gotten because you're over there in the UK.
Yeah.
And it was at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, at the Mellon Arena. And I remember this was I mean, dude, talk about like Christmas morning. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
going to the arena. I remember calling, and I knew I had to thank Mike Bell. Remember Mike Bell? God rest his soul, great guy, man. He got me the booking because Dr. Tom was the developmental director at the time, so he was booking people for extras. And Mike went to bat for me. And he's like, yeah, this kid's good. Can we take him on the road with us? And I got booked. And I remember I called my family, and it's like, I have a match. Like, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh at the Mellon Arena. And my parents lived in New York. So I remember my Aunt Christine, my mom, my dad, my brother, sister, they all drived up. And little did I know, just because you're booked doesn't mean you're guaranteed to wrestle. So here I am with this assumption like I'm going to wrestle. But anyway, I got paid to be there. I was booked. And then, but luckily for me, I actually ended up wrestling because, so I got to wrestle Val Venus. But just take that scenario, and now you can fast forward to what you're talking about with Albright versus La Resistance.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. Every time I went out there, it was like this big, great feeling because it was a chance for me to. I always visualized coming back and being like, yeah, man, we want to hire you to a WWE contract. Like I was just like, I wanted that so bad. It was like an obsession. But yeah, man, it was like one of those things where I was just booked as an extra. And again, you know where we were. I don't remember, but and then I knew Conway very, very well because he was in OVW with me. And then Sly, I knew of because he came down to OVW, but only for a little bit. So I was very comfortable with who we were wrestling. And then Albright, who I wrestle with every day in OVW, is my partner. I'm like, this is a great position here. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm going into unknown territory, But it was a match designed to get them over, which it was.
Yeah.
And I don't even think I got in there in the beginning at all. I think it was Albright. They gave them a little bit just to make them so they can get heat on them. I didn't get in there because I was getting the comeback. And then I remember getting the tag, blowing the comeback, boom, 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 boom. And then they stopped me, and then they gave me the little finishing deal.
Yeah.
like catch, spin, whatever you want to call that. But yeah, and it's just a job well done. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, indeed.
It was,
And go. Oh,
no, it was
sorry.
a good time. I remember a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and it wasn't long. I mean, like you said, you went back, you done some things with Capitelli, you done some things with Carlito again, you mentioned Eugene, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was only about 6 months or so later that back, and I think it was October of '04, if memory serves me correctly. I'm quite good with dates and times, but you then get another opportunity with Rodney Mack on Sunday Night
Yeah,
Heat,
Rodney Mack, Sunday Night Heat. Yep. Mm-hmm.
All-State Arena,
Oh,
and then
Rodney, man, what a pro. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
That was an interesting experience though. And again, this is me, only a couple of years in the business, so I wasn't as educated as I was now,
yeah,
and I actually owe a huge thank you to Rodney Mack and Jazz because Rodney was very unselfish that night when he wrestled me. Unselfish. I want to reiterate that word. Because he gave me a lot more than what he should have. And I remember we had our match, and then we got to the back, and then Arn Anderson was our agent,
yeah,
or producer, whatever you want to call it. And he looked at me, Arn shook my hand, and he goes, Mondo, good job. Like, you're good job. And he goes, Rodney, we need to talk. And then I guess afterwards, Rodney was telling me what the talk is that they needed Rodney to look here and needed me to look here because the match was designed to get Rodney over.
yeah,
So, I was just in what you call an enhancement talent. I was just in there to put the star over him and Jazz. But when I recall in the match, and again, I was just listening. Whatever Rodney wanted to do, I'll just do what he says. At the time, if he was just like, "I'm just going to beat you down," that's just okay. Cool. But no, man, like it was like we actually had a competitive match. I remember giving him a couple arm drags and I'm drop kicking him and he's staggering. And then he took the big bump, and then like I blew a comeback on him and everything. And it was like, it was kind of like here. Like he was still a little bit more than me, but really it should have been here.
yeah,
This being Rodney. And Arn was like, look, man, we need to get over in this one. Like, gave me a lot, and but I mean, in hindsight, when you look at it in terms of the business, and yeah, that's what should have been done. But on the flip side, I can't just like a situation I had with Aaron Aguilera that I just talked about on Facebook a couple of days ago. I gave that story there about what an unselfish guy he was. And Rodney's in the same category, very extremely unselfish, great guy, super cool dude, and I'm grateful for what he did for me that day because he
yeah.
didn't have to.
No,
He didn't have to.
yeah,
He
you're
should have
right.
ate me up. He should have ate me up.
Yeah, he's now Damage as part of Blunt Force Trauma, the NWA Tag Team Champions now.
Oh yeah, he's an NWA, right?
Yeah, with
Oh,
Aaron Stevens.
he's with the tag team with Blunt Force,
Blunt Force Trauma.
Blunt Force Trauma.
Yeah, with Aaron Stevens of all people.
One of them's Rodney Mack.
Yep, Damage.
I didn't know that. Oh,
There you
that's
go.
awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
he's still kicking it. He's still doing it. And then going back to your story, a week later, you're on Velocity, Luther Reigns.
Luther Velocity. That's
Yeah,
on YouTube.
yeah, that
Oh
is.
man,
That is.
that was a scary match. And I say scary because Luther again. He actually handpicked to work me because again, I love Horseshoe. He's a fucking great guy, man. He great relationship we had in OVW. I remember Horseshoe was one of the first guys that came up to me in OVW. It was after a long, grueling practice, and we're all shot and tired. And he's sitting down there unlacing his boots, and I walk by and he goes, "Hey, Mondo," he goes, "you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to be a WWE superstar." And I was like, thanks, man. That's like really cool, So to answer your question, I'm booked here again on SmackDown, and Horseshoe is designed in the same situation as Rodney Mack, right? To get over, pretty much. And I was there, and he's like, "Hey, can I work Mike?" Because I think he knows I'm pretty decent, and I'll make him look like $1 million, And he knows me, and why not work me? I guess, right? So that was the situation, but it was Finley was our agent, but like Horseshoe, man, he's a big dude. He was like, and he's and when he turns on that light, man, he's intense. And I wasn't scared like I was gonna get hurt. I knew he was safe and everything, but it was just like, you're in that atmosphere and you're live and you want to make it, you want to make everything look good.
Yeah.
I remember there was a spot in the match because he was like going over it with Fit in the beginning in the ring. He's like, Fit's like, why don't you just headbutt them? Like it just, but not use your hand, just fucking bang. And I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna get headbutt in the face. But you know what? Came time to match. Horseshoe did the freaking bang right in my face, and I barely felt him. And I wanted to go above and beyond for Horseshoe too, where I call him Horseshoe, Luther Reigns.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, there's a spot in the match where he drapes me over the top rope, kicks me in the head, and then I freaking take the bump to the floor.
Yeah.
And that was my idea actually. I was like, hey man, when you do that boot, would they have a problem with if you just looking all mad, intense, and he just took me by the hair and he just threw me to the floor. And he's like, you don't mind taking that bump? I go, no, man, I'll take it for you. Here I am at whatever, 20 years old, invincible, And, but anyway, I did it. Yeah. And it was like, I remember Bill DeMont doing commentary. He's like, someone better call Mike Mondo's mama or something like that, But, yeah, man, that match went very, very well. And they were very happy with it. Luther was very happy with it. He thanked me. And it was such a pleasure to work with Luther. He's a great guy, and I hope I was able to help him out in that, whatever I could have in that situation at the time. I hope I did my job for him.
I think you did. I think it's fair to say that you did. But then it was about a year when you've done a lot of OVW stuff. Like you said, you worked with Punk, you worked with Elijah Burke, you worked with a couple of others in there. And then it comes to the back end of 2005 when you had your Raw house show match with Val Venus in Pennsylvania at the Civic Center.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 days later, as the start of 06, you have the Sunday Night Heat match in East Rutherford, New Jersey with Chavo Guerrero. And then there's a tag match about 2 weeks later, Sunday Night Heat. It was against Chris Cage and The Miz, Mike Mizanin, but it was you and Ken Dwayne. So here's the thing. And then after that, the Spirit Squad come together in OVW about a couple of weeks later. The Spirit Squad come together. Was this kind of like a thing where, was there any feeders coming down from the WWE that they were looking for a group? How did it all start?
Okay. Well, let's start from once upon a time. So, Vince McMahon, he wanted a group, and the story that was told to me was, I never had cheerleaders on my show. Johnny Ace, go find me some cheerleaders, like, because it's never been done before, right? Nope. Male cheerleaders never been done.
Nope.
So, that was the idea: get a group of 5 cheerleaders, and spoiler alert here. I wasn't originally planned to be in the Spirit Squad.
Oh, wow.
It was, I was not a consideration. The original Spirit Squad was supposed to be Kenny as the Golden Boy, the leader pretty much. Nick Nemeth, Ziggler, Mitch, who, with the megaphone, and the last one was supposed to be Elijah Burke.
Oh, really? Elijah Burke?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. And, Elijah Burke, actually, he turned down the opportunity for the Spirit Squad. So he wasn't feeling like whatever that was Elijah's decision, and again, and that's another guy I had great matches with. But you know what? I will say on Elijah's behalf here that he took a gamble, he took a risk, if you think about it, because obviously, when we went on and did what we did. But he made the right move, I in my opinion, because like obviously he's evolved after that, and he had a great career, and he still does have a great career, and he made a name for himself with the Pope, and and as a commentator at TNA and as a wrestler, like he's very versatile, and he's still doing his thing today. So I think, and that's a hard thing to do, like to be, because think about it, if you really put yourself in that situation, you're trying to get an opportunity, right? And here you are, you're being given this, and then you say no. That takes a lot of courage, I think. You have to really he believed in himself. So kudos to him for that. But anyway, so Elijah turned down the deal, and that was that. And then you fast forward to when you said the match with Chavo, because that ties in with that.
Yeah.
So I was home in Long Island, New York. I want to say it was like around the holidays or something like that. And then I get a call. I'm in developmental I'm on a developmental contract at the time.
Yeah.
And I get a call from Tommy Dreamer, who was in the office at the time as a developmental director.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, Mike, can you show up to New Jersey, to that Raw? And he's like, I want to pitch for you to be in the Spirit Squad, because Elijah didn't want to do the deal. So they want another member. So he's like, go to the haircutting place, look like Nemeth, he said. Okay. What does that mean, Dreamer? So basically get highlights, look all GQ, you know what I mean? Like look the part. So okay, so I go to Raw, and then he takes me to Stephanie. Stephanie looks at me up and down. She goes, "Yep, that'll work." And that's how I slipped into the Spirit Squad. And then Johnny Jeter was a last minute addition, I think a couple weeks before we debuted. So we made it 5 guys instead of 4.
Yeah.
But anyway, that New Jersey was the night I wrestled Chavo, and then I asked Johnny, "Do you want me to wrestle as the Squad? Or do you want me to wrestle just as Mondo?" And he goes, "No, just wrestle as Mondo." So I worked Chavo in an easy dark match as Mondo, and then they wanted to see me wrestle with the group, like wrestle with the character. So me and Kenny went on the road for a test run, do a loop of house shows. I want to say it was against Danny Basham.
Yeah.
All 3 nights. I was a manager for Kenny the first 2 nights, and then I wrestled Danny the 3rd night.
Yeah.
And then that Monday it was TV, and then that's when I had the tag team match with Cage and Miz versus me and Kenny, because we were supposed to debut that night. And that's another story when we met Vince McMahon, if you want to hear that.
Yes.
For me. Okay. So we get to that TV the night of the tag team with Cage and Miz. Yeah. And we're all there now. Me, Johnny, Kenny, Mitch, Nick, right? And then Johnny Ace comes up to us. It's like, the boss wants to meet you guys. Because now they got this crew of cheerleaders and he wants to run with it. So we come up with this idea because we know Vince, he's very Vince is not like a normal guy, right? Like he likes just pop them, right? Be unique. Go in there, make a great first impression that he won't forget, right? Yeah. So that's like we come up with this idea, like we're gonna. I'll get there. So anyway, we're going to the elevator with Johnny Ace, and Johnny Ace goes, "All right, guys, you only have 1 chance to make a first impression." And we're like, okay, like we're ready for this. So the elevator opens, we walk into Vince's office, and we just start from the hallway all the way into his room, just blaring the air horns. Right? He looks up with his glasses. He's like, "What the hell?" You know what I mean? We all line up. And then one by one, he goes, "I'm Kenny, I'm Johnny, I'm Mitch, I'm Mickey, I'm Mikey." And together, we are the Spirit Squad. And then I took the air horn and right in Vince's face go, and he goes, takes off his glasses, and he's like, "This is going to work. This is going to work," And I'm like, all right. That's what we wanted to do, and it worked, right? So he's like, "I'm thinking about maybe debuting you guys tonight." I'm like, "What?" You know what I mean? But long story short, it didn't happen that night. It happened the week after. We were supposed to do vignettes at different college campuses and set up our debut, but the vignettes didn't happen. Instead, we did weeks worth of cheers that ultimately build up to our in-ring debut against Shawn Michaels, and then I guess I'll stop there and let you take over. But that's how the band came about.
And for you personally, Mike, at this point, you've literally, as you said, it's been a lifelong dream to get to WWE. It's what you've wanted to do. Vince McMahon turns around and says, "That'll work." Surely at that point, you're like, "Shit, this is it."
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And you mentioned now, you hit the nail on the head. I was going to get to that first match. You take on, well, probably one of the greatest in-ring performers ever, Shawn Michaels. Now, it was
best in-ring performer of all time. Yes.
Yeah, indeed. Mm-hmm. And funnily enough, we've got just side effects. It's really weird now looking back on it, how you brought together the tag team that are now running the show in WWE and NXT. It's quite a unique situation. But anyway, going back, so it was in Trenton, New Jersey. The Spirit Squad, you lost by DQ. It was a quick match. But what do you remember about working with Shawn the first time?
Yes. I remember we were backstage. We didn't know what we were doing. But we knew we were going to make our in-ring debut. We didn't know against who though.
Mhm.
Finally, Kenny comes up and he goes, "Hey guys, we're working HBK tonight," and like my heart went like, "Holy cow!" You know, like this is like amazing. Like this is talk about an opportunity here. You know what I mean? And not to mention, like, let's call a spade a spade. You know, like I've been a wrestling fan my whole life. I grew up watching Shawn Michaels. You know, so there was that little fan of me inside too, going like, "How cool is this?" You know. And then there was the professional side of me going, "This is going to be a learning experience and an experience that I'm not going to like. I'm not going to forget for the rest of my life. You know, this is going to be, and hopefully just the start. Which, gosh, we've wrestled Shawn 60, 70 times, but like, there's always that first one that you'll never forget. You know,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then we all talked about it and was like, "Yeah, Mondo, you're gonna be taking the super kick at the end." And I'm like, "What?" You know what I mean? Like this is crazy, you know? Like but I remember, and this shows you how good Shawn Michaels is, right? And I can't tell you how much I've learned from him, what I've gained from being in the ring with him, and more so even the talks that we've had in the stands before the show when Raw's, they're just setting up and stuff
Yeah.
prior. Just picking his brain and being a sponge. So we get into the ring and our time gets cut, So Shawn, like the match we had planned out, I think it was like 7 minutes. I think we only had like 4 or 5 or something.
Yeah.
So when Shawn's circling the ring, he's like, X-nay this, X-nay that. Let's go, boys. Like he's hitting the ropes going, Mondo, give me the knee, for our heat spot, and he's just talking, communicating. And I'm thinking it was like a split section reaction, but I remember doing it and I was like, oh, okay, good. That was the right move, because
Yeah.
again, this was like adjusting on the fly,
Yeah.
Monday Night Raw, live TV, and that's working. And that shows you how good Shawn is relaying, communicating to 5 guys and then himself with the referee. And when you watch it back on TV, we didn't miss a beat, and it was just, it was awesome. And he loved it. I remember the got standing ovation in the back because it was the start of a awesome thing going forward. And then yeah, we just moved on from there. But that was that. And, the finish, not the
DQ.
finish, but you're right. It was a DQ. Yeah, was it a DQ? It was a DQ.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a
Okay.
DQ because a couple of weeks later, a couple of weeks later, you beat him in a steel cage. It was
Yeah,
four.
the cage. That was another interesting one.
It's going to get to,
Wow.
yeah, the steel cage match, but it was a little bit after the cage match that I wanted to get to, and it was probably about a month, 3 weeks later, Allstate Arena, Roseman, Illinois. You win tag gold. The
Oh
un
yeah.
the unlikely Spirit Squad at the time, it was yourself and Kenny against Kane and the Big Show. And I have to ask this because his pyro shits me up at the best of times. What is it like being in that ring when Kane's pyro goes off?
Oh man, yeah. It's hot. I'll tell you that. It's very hot. But it's interesting because like you have to like position yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
well, first of all, we're always on the outside. Like we're
yeah,
never in the ring because obviously we're gonna take a powder when he comes out.
yeah,
But yeah, you have to like stand like literally like if this is the ring, right? You have to stand like in the middle on the outside because if you're too close, you're gonna catch that
yeah,
heat gets hot when you're out there, But we again, Kane and Big Show, two veterans with what an experience working with those guys, two of the best big men in pro wrestling. The athleticism that they both had to offer in terms of their styles with their big man, persona. Just a great combination. And I can't tell you how many tag matches we've had with them on house shows. Obviously, the big TV match where we won the tag team titles from, which was the night after WrestleMania 22, like you
yeah.
said, All-State Arena. And I remember having butterflies all that day because this was like, I knew we were smartened up that we were going to win the belts 2 nights before WrestleMania. I remember we were in an elevator with Chris DeJoseph, one of the writers for Raw. And he's like, kayfabe, keep this on the DL, but you guys are getting the belts the Monday after Mania. And we were like, what? It's just crazy. But we knew it's wrestling. They write the show over a million times. Maybe they'll nix it. But no, we get the TV that day and it stayed. And then I find out Vince requested me and Kenny to work. And I'm like, hell yeah, because I always want to wrestle because I just always want to wrestle. But I'm being picked to wrestle in this match, actually wrestling in this match, because remember, in the squad, there's always a chance you're not wrestling
Yeah.
because could be a tag match. You might have 2 on the outside, 3 on the outside, or maybe it's all 5 or 4 of us wrestling and it's, a handicap match or something. But I was one of the guys to be picked with Kenny. And so I was actually winning the tag team titles, right? Um, and if you watch my face afterwards, right? It's genuine emotion, like it's real. There's a picture that's because I remember after the match we had to do a green screen and take our green screen videos and stuff with the belts. I'm waiting my turn and I'm sitting there in a chair like a seat like this, and one of the camera guys noticed it, and I was like just looking at the belt. I just having a moment with myself, like this is reality, like. And the camera guy he's like, hey man, that's really I snapped this photo of you because you look like you were in a moment. It's a real photo, and I actually blew it up as an 8x10, and I have that now. But yeah, it was really really cool, man. It's a moment I'll never forget. I'm very grateful. Lucky to have done it with some cool, awesome partners and people that I grew up in OVW with. They're my colleagues, my friends. Thankful for Big Show and Kane doing the business for us for that. And then we were off to the races, man, because our next feud is with DX.
Gonna get to that, and before you get there,
Yeah,
because I remember this, because I was there, and I have to. Wembley Arena. It was 21st of or 21st of April, I think, '06. It was a Spirit Squad on Raw, Kenny, Mikey, Mitch, and Nikki,
yeah.
against Edge, John Cena, and Triple
Mm,
H. It was a 5-on-3, so Johnny was there as well.
yeah.
It was a no contest. I remember that. I can't remember much more than that, but I just remember because it was like this is the point. You're now obviously you're in the ring with Triple H. You're also in the ring with Edge, who growing up as you mentioned, you grew up as a fan.
Yeah.
You've now won the gold as well, so you're living that dream. But you're getting in the ring with Triple H, who's been this. Again, you go back to the end of the Attitude Era, start of the 2000. There he is.
Mhm.
Edge, who's exactly the same. He's been a bit later on than Triple H, but he's been there and done it. And of course, probably at that point, and arguably the greatest of all time now, John Cena. How was that to you? Because the crowd, I know the crowd was very sort of iffy with Cena. Like he used to be he was the face that got a lot of boos. I've been there. I was booing him just because everyone else did back in the day. But how is that for you in terms of obviously I know you're going to start a program and you've worked with Sean, but this is now the son-in-law, to the want of a better phrase, Edge, and now the greatest of all time. How was that for you though? Just being booked in that moment.
Amazing. I mean, it was really really great. It was an honor, really, to be honest, to be in those ring with those guys. That was the first time we actually got to wrestle with Edge. I think the first time we actually got to wrestle with Cena as well.
Yeah.
Hunter, we've wrestled a few times because we were doing the DX deal and stuff like that. But again, like you're talking about being in the ring with just a wealth of knowledge. Now, the inside scoop and the underneath reason why that match happened, if you'd like to hear it, is if you remember, they went to the pay-per-view. I forgot which one it was, but it was that team in a three-way dance. It was Edge versus John Cena versus Triple H.
Yeah.
And pretty much that was the business of that match. It was to create tension between each player on that team. Yeah. And we were kind of just the people in that match, but could also get some heat, get the rub by being in the ring with those guys. So that would benefit us moving forward. But ultimately the focus was on those three, because if you notice how the match is going, there's a lot of dissension, there's a lot of curiosity, and then I think there might have been a blow off later on, but like it was to build to that program, and that's why that match happened. But yeah, man, I mean, what an experience. I mean, John, there's a reason why he is where he is today. He's just you got the people that say like, oh, John Cena is not a great worker, not a great worker. He's a tremendous worker. He's one of the best workers, because there's a big difference between being a great wrestler and a great worker. You know what I mean? Great wrestlers don't draw money. Great workers draw money, and based on what you were saying, because I remember you were saying like a lot of people would boo John Cena, and stuff like that. But here's a testament to John, because I know because I was on the house shows with him every single night when he was wrestling Edge in the main event. And every single show, every time, bro, I kid you not, man, it was John Cena entrance, boo, right? Edge entrance, yeah.
Yeah.
Edge the heel, Cena's the face, right?
Yeah.
Now they're wrestling, right? They're working, and now they're doing the yay boo spot. You know what that is? Like
Yeah.
boo,
Yeah.
yay,
Yeah. The
boo,
punches.
yay.
Yeah.
So John hits Edge, boo, right? Edge, yay, John, boo. But now they're doing like, I think it's like a six minute go home. You know what I mean? So now they're doing the comeback and the falses, but they do it in a way, and every single time, man, I kid you not, every single time John turns to people, or Edge, obviously the great worker that he is,
Yeah.
they turn to people. So when that finish happens, man, and John does the freaking FU on Edge, it's 1, 2, 3, yay. You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
it's the complete opposite reaction to when John first came through the curtain on his entrance.
Yeah.
So it's and that's what makes a great worker, man, to be able to work, to manipulate the people's emotions and get that result. And seriously, every single night that, and then every single night they turn them.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yes,
And that's the art. That's the art of pro wrestling. You know,
it is.
that's working. You know,
So,
so
side note, would you have turned Cena heel at any point if you were in
no,
charge? No, you left it as is, like it is now.
I think that was the right move. Now, don't get me wrong. In the moment, there was that curiosity for me of, man, how would Cena be awesome? You know, because like it's easy to want to do it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But but like Vince was smart, man. Like you think long term. Like no, they're going to come back, and it's going to be even better and bigger than what it was. And really that's how it happened. I don't think John Cena was ever a heel. He was always a babyface, right? He's retiring as a
He
babyface.
was no, he was heel when he first
Oh,
started
Word
rapping.
Life, Word Life.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
initially, yeah. Then it changed to,
Got you.
yeah, not it wasn't heel long though. It was probably six. I want to say 6 months maybe. Because I remember he had a match with Undertaker, and then he started going against Big Show for the US title.
Okay,
And then it was
got you.
full on face ever since then. Full on face after that. But yeah, great guy.
Yeah.
I remember
Hmm.
meeting him. I remember meeting Cena. He was great. He's a great guy to meet.
Oh yeah.
But so as you mentioned, we've been leading up to this big time where you guys are going against Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and every single week Vince McMahon is making their life hell. So you're kind of Vince's, Vince's work for him, right? He's just basically thrown out there. And we're getting teased, and we're getting teased about this reunion of DX, and we're getting teased. And obviously, me being an Attitude Era fan, I'm wanting it to happen, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And you know it's going to happen. As you say, sometimes it's that wait for it to happen. And then
Yeah.
finally, there's the night where Triple H is in the ring. He's feeding you guys, all going down one by one. And I
The
can't remember.
gauntlet match.
Yeah, the gauntlet match. Was it Mitch? Was the last one? Was he the last one? I can't remember.
Mitch. Yeah, he got thrown out of the curtain from
That's the
Shawn
one. Yeah,
Michaels.
I'm sure it was Mitch. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was like, "Mitch, get out of here! Mitch, get out of here!" And he gets locked. And the crowd, I mean, they go batshit crazy at this point. Shawn walks out. They reunite DX, and then you're working DX. But that moment, to be in that moment when they reunite, and again, and you being a fan, obviously you as the fan as well as the wrestler, it must have just been an incredible moment for you, even though you're on the receiving end of it.
Absolutely. Really glad you brought this up, because I want to elaborate on this a little bit. Is There's so many times out there wrestlers throw this word around, like the pop, right? Oh man, yeah, we'll do, and what a great pop. Oh man, yeah, oh, this will get a great pop. Man, people don't know what a pop is unless like you're out there and you experience it. You know, man, no, they're just making sound. They didn't pop. You know, I think it's an overused term in wrestling. But if I have to go down in history to say like, what was the most loudest experience that I've ever heard in my career, right? I can hands down say when Shawn came down and makes the save and bop 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 bop, and then I think at this point I got shit canned over the top rope and I'm on the floor and I knew I was done. My work was done. And then Shawn and Hunter, they get face to face and they get in that grill, right? And they're mean mugging. and then they back up, and then they fucking do
Yeah.
this, boom, and then they freaking turn to Vince and they do this,
Yeah.
and people, the people pop.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the loudest. That was the loudest reaction that I've ever heard in my career, man. It was so loud, my ears hurt. Like I actually could hear my. I was like, ugh, you know. Yeah, man, what a moment, man. That moment probably will be remembered forever in a lot of fans' eyes, you know.
Yeah.
But and off of that, man, it was off to the races with DX, man. And then we again, I can't tell you how many matches we've had with them on house shows and TV and pay-per-view main events and overseas tours. And what an experience that was. How much not just a wealth of knowledge, picking their brains after the match and what we could do better, you know, what we did well, what we need to work on, you know, and just when I got one of the big things that I got out of working with them for me personally was you learn how to work like a top guy, learn how to work like a main eventer. You know, it's different how you work if you're the last match, say if you're the first match on the card, or if you're like the match after intermission. Like if you're the last match, it's like the pacing of it, you know, the timing of everything. When you're working guys that are over, like Hunter and Sean, you don't have to do much, you know. It's just they basically want to see their stuff. It's just a matter of putting their stuff, like the greatest hits, at the right time at the right place, and then taking it home on that high note, and you know, leaving them home happy. And then working with Flair, right? Because Flair would sometimes get in the mix. Sometimes we work with Sean and Flair. Sometimes it's Hunter and Flair. Sometimes it's Sean and Hunter. You know, and both those guys had a part-time. Sean and Hunter had part-time schedules. So if Hunter had the weekend off, Flair would slip in. If Sean had the weekend off, Flair would slip in. Or if they're both on, they're both on. You know, so we're getting this awesomeness of combination of experience here. And I'd be an idiot not to be a sponge and try to soak it up. And that's exactly what I did, is soaked it up and then some.
Yeah, it's definitely so. And you kind of moved it quite on nicely because you mentioned the name Ric Flair. It was a few months after that that you finally dropped the titles after so long against Flair and Rowdy Roddy Piper.
The Hot Rod.
The Hot
Yeah,
Rod.
man. Love the Hot Rod. Hell yeah. I miss Roddy.
Cyber Sunday. So Cyber Sunday, because this was the one where the fans would choose. That was the point. So did you legitimately have no idea like who they were?
Well, see this. Yeah, that's the thing about like what was it called before that? Taboo Tuesday, Cyber Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, that's a legit shoot. You know, and it's funny because like I was always curious myself because I wasn't backstage on the Taboo Tuesdays ones yet, but I was there for Cyber Sunday. So I was actually curious myself, how is this all going to work out, you know?
Yeah.
But they have people that are there, like the internet guys and stuff, and they constantly keep you in the loop as far as how the polls are doing.
Yeah.
Now, I knew in my situation, it was going to be a no-brainer that Hot Rod was going to win because I think Hot Rod's percentage was like much significantly higher than the other two.
Yeah.
Which was Dusty and Sarge. So odds are like we're talking 90% we were going to wrestle Hot Rod.
Yeah.
So we put our match together with Hot Rod, but we also put something together with Sarge and something together with Dusty just in case. Because again, hey, you never know, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing, man. It's like, yeah, there's usually 3 choices, and you pretty much see guys putting together 3 different types of matches just in case it's you, or it's you. You know, you got to be somewhat prepared, you know? But I've also seen situations where I think it was like one of them was like Randy and Sean, and I mean, they just called it the ring, you know? But it was just like, but yeah, most of the guys like just, it was pretty interesting. So, but they constantly have people that are updating you on the polls to see where you're at. And some of them are kind of neck and neck. So it's like, you got to make sure you know, I think Jericho one time told me he had like 3 matches planned out, like, cause it was like neck and neck. It could have been anybody. So yeah, you want to prevail in the end. So it was quite interesting. But that being said, that was the night we lost the tag belts. Yeah. And again, what an honor, privilege to what 2 better guys can you ask to lose it to, right? Flair and Piper. Yeah. And we had, you know, I think we had like what, a 6-month run with the belts. It was really good. And yeah, man, a lot of great moments, memories, and one thing good about holding the tag titles is because if you have the tag titles, you're guaranteed to be on every house show. So
Yeah.
you want to keep working, right? That's
Yeah.
that's the whole idea. Longevity. But yeah, so anyway, it came time to do business, and I learned so much from Hot Rod, man. Along definitely with Flair, I learned a lot with Hot Rod. Obviously in the ring, but even more so outside the ring, because like a lot of guys would go out, to the bar, do
Yeah.
whatever, hang out. But me and Roddy's thing was after the matches, I brought the 6 pack of beer, you know what I mean? And I go to his hotel room and, we just kick back, have a couple, and I would just listen to him just teach me and dissect the matches and tell me what we could do better or me do better. Or he would just tell stories and pretty much students sitting on the learning tree. But we did that every night, especially on overseas tours in his room. And I knew, I was like, this is like really like a really cool special moment because it was like a lot of guys would kill for this opportunity, and here I am like getting this knowledge from this veteran, and I made sure not to take advantage of it and soak up as much as I can. I really strived and did the best I can to be the best wrestler that I can possibly be. So when I look back, when it's all said and done, I can say I did the best I can. No
Yeah.
regrets.
Definitely
Mm-hmm.
so. And you went through, as you say, you went through phases. You wrestled a Survivor Series against Team Flair. That was a real legendary match with the legends.
Yeah.
Ron Simmons, Sergeant Slaughter, Dusty Rhodes, and people like that. You've done a bit more of DX. And then sort of at the back end of '06, you had the Highlanders Crime Time.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, because after that, I think it was like I think I remember right, it was December '06. You lost to the Highlanders on Raw. And then it kind of just that was it. We never really. I know you went back to OVW, but did you get told the run was over? That was it. How was that kind of given to you at that point?
Yeah, that's interesting, man, because honestly, that what you just said, like the run's coming to an end,
Yeah,
like I can't tell you how many times we've heard that throughout a couple of months.
yeah,
Like seriously, it was like a couple of months. It was like, well, guys, I think we're gonna kind of wrap this thing up soon. Guys, I think it's coming to a close soon. You know what I mean? It was
yeah,
like, okay. But then we end up keep on doing something.
yeah,
And yeah, we did Highlanders, did Crime Time, and yeah, that was it, right? But
yeah,
finally it came to the day when Hunter came up to us and it's like, all right, guys, yeah, we're for real, like wrapping this up tonight. And then yeah, that was the end. And then they did the whole pre-tape with the box on it, right? So put us in the box, and that was pretty much the symbolism that it was, this run was coming to an end. And then because I remember that match was a 6-man tag. I want to say it was Sean Flair, Hunter versus us.
yeah.
And then yeah, that was the end of the squad era. So I remember that. But yeah, it was pretty much to answer your question. Yeah, we didn't know when the run was going to come to an end. It just one Monday we showed up and they all just decided that day that was going to end. To make it long story short.
Yeah, that was it. But then you obviously done a lot of runs at OVW. There was FCW as well. It's getting back together. You did have I think you done Jesse and Festus on SmackDown. You and
Yeah,
yeah,
we did. They did. They called us up. Me and Nick.
yeah,
I remember Michael Hayes was the agent, and he told us, all right, he goes, all right, guys, we're in a unique situation. Normally, when we have a dark match, we're looking at somebody. In this situation, we're looking at both teams. So we were in this match where we're both have the eyeballs on us, and yeah, I remember going out there with Nick and Jesse and Festus. Again, we work with them in
yeah,
FCW, OVW. I think OVW actually.
yeah.
So we had an idea about each other and how we worked and everything. And then yeah, we went out there, had a dark, and me and Nick went back to developmental after that. And I think Jesse and Festus actually ended up debuting soon after that.
Yeah, they did actually. Let's talk about Nick now because recently winning the TNA Heavyweight Championship at Slammiversary, he
Yeah,
always. I mean, obviously he was that. I believe was he Kerwin White's caddy at one point?
yeah, he was. Yep.
He did. He did do that as well, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah,
He was always. I mean, I know it was meant to be like, obviously there was Ken Dwayne as well, who was really good. I think he's a producer now, or he's backstage at WWE. I'm sure he's doing something with WWE.
Kenny.
Yeah, Kenny. Yeah, I'm sure he's doing.
Kenny is. Yep.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah.
producer. Yep.
Yeah, but with Nick, I mean, he seems. I mean, he's had the top. Did the W without sort of being negative towards. Did they kind of have a moment with him that they could have done more with him when he had the titles? Or I know I think one of them he had concussion, he had to drop it, and I think the next one he wasn't title champion for too long. But could they have done more with him?
Like Dolph Ziggler, you mean,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
general?
yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, WWE, it's a funky world sometimes. Like Nick had all the tools, right? He had the
yeah,
talent, he had the look, he could talk. He was over. People loved him, you know? But in that type of atmosphere, in that type of world, you could, unless the engine, right, really gets truly behind you. And when I say the
yeah,
engine, meaning like the powers that be,
yeah,
like for example, the Spirit Squad, right?
yeah,
The Spirit Squad couldn't really fail. Honestly, we could have went out there and we could have, I think we still did our job quite well. But let's just say we didn't do our job quite well.
yeah,
We still would have worked and we got over and we would have kept going, because the engine was behind us and it was a Vince McMahon idea, which means it's a good idea, right?
yeah,
So when you got the engine behind you, you know what I mean. I mean, the what you can do is really endless, and I think that's the part where what Nick Dolph like that lacked. It was the part that he couldn't really control. Everything that he could control, I thought he did the best ability. Like I said, he was in amazing shape, great talent, great wrestler, great worker, great talker. He would steal a show, have matches of the night with freaking, anybody. He can work with anybody. Like he got to that level and that point that, and rightfully so, because look at all, like when you look back when he got called up and made his re-debut against Batista, you know what I mean? But that match, all the guys, he was pretty much ready to go when that time came if they needed him or if they wanted him. But for some reason, I guess it was just the office didn't have that vision, and I think that's the part that lacked. So it's like you can only really go so far, and kind of unless you get that green light to get that next push and be put in the right position to, succeed. Now, I think another example that you can say where like they did pull the trigger on is the guy like Daniel Bryan,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Daniel Bryan's a good example because like same position as Nick, if you think about it, right? But it was that yes, yes, and then finally, like it was almost like the office couldn't deny it anymore. They were
Yeah,
like, "Look, we need to run with this guy." You know what I mean? So they freaking pulled the gates, and now Daniel Bryan was, and he obviously he was ready, like Nick, and Daniel Bryan embraced it, and look at the star he became. So I just think the gate wasn't lifted up for Dolph as far as from an office perspective. But I think from his talent perspective, he did everything he possibly can do and then some.
yeah, definitely. We'll get back
That
to
makes sense?
yeah, no,
Yeah.
perfect sense. Just before we start wrapping up, because I do want to talk quickly about the return to SmackDown in 2016. But before
Of
that,
course, yeah.
Ring of
Mhm.
Honor, you went there as well. Was Jim Cornette there when you was there? Was Jimmy there?
Yeah, Jimmy Cornette was the guy that got me there.
Yes, I was
Yeah,
going to ask. Is that
again,
how it got
he was
there?
always a big fan of mine. I gotta say, I gotta give a shout out to Jimmy. I love Cornette. I'm a Cornette guy. If it wasn't for Jim, I wouldn't have had any or half the success that I had in wrestling. So I just want to thank him for that. And yeah, to answer your question, he was the guy that brought me into Ring of Honor, and I had a great run in Ring of Honor, great experience, great matches, and yeah, I love working for Jimmy, and I'm really grateful that he's a supporter of mine. So, yeah, he's awesome. And then you want to
Perfect.
talk about SmackDown? You said.
Yes, just quickly before we start wrapping up. Yeah, so 2016, Dolph Ziggler was in a feud with Miz, if I remember rightly. And he decided, well, not him, but obviously the powers that be decided, to bring a couple back of Nick's past, which would be you and Mikey. At one,
Yep.
you were Mikey, sorry,
Yes.
Kenny and Mikey, sorry,
Yeah.
I've got it written out, Kenny and Mikey, back from the Spirit Squad. How did that all come about from you? Was it a case of you got a call from the office and they said, "Look, we're doing this little thing. Can you come? Are you available to be involved?"
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what it was. But it's interesting because um, I was at my a baby shower or something like that, and I was at a family event, and I get a text message when we were leaving, and it was Nick, and he said kayfabe, but the office is gonna smart me up. They're gonna call you and Kenny to do something with us on SmackDown. And this is like I haven't heard from them in years, so it's like what? Like this was kind of like out of the blue. Like okay, but I knew he wasn't ribbing me because like it wouldn't have been a good rib. Like I knew he wasn't ribbing, but but yeah, it wasn't a rib. It was true. And then it was just honestly, it was supposed to be a one-off. It was supposed to be one show done. But, and here's the but. So we get there, we do our one-off, and then all of a sudden, like, this the reaction, we come back, and Vince is like, I want to bring you guys back for the pay-per-view. So I was like, okay, cool. So we do that one-off. Now we do the pay-per-view. I think it was Miz versus Dolph for the Intercontinental Belt.
Yeah.
They had this great tear the house down match. We do our run-in, and then it was such a key point in the match, and just the reaction made that false finish mean that much more when Kenny and I invaded, came down and super kick, whatever we did. And then Vince came back and he's like, I want to bring you. Actually, that's when the writers came up to us, and he's like, because the writers must have been new because they had no idea that we were the Spirit Squad from 2006. They thought this was the first time we were there. And he's like, I really like you guys. We think you guys should do something with the tag champs, Rhino and Heath Slater. And me and Kenny are like, all right, yeah, cool. So they brought us back again. They brought us back again. They brought us back again. So, and then we did stuff with Rhino and Slater, obviously with the Miz, with Dolph. We did a little couple handicap matches. Yeah. And then the last match we've had and for some reason I just knew, I don't know why, I just had this feeling. It was like the first ever and probably only 15 or 14 man tag match, whatever it was. It was something crazy.
Yeah.
Talk about trying to put that match together. But anyway, we did it, and I don't know why I had a gut feeling that it was going to come to a close after this, But it was an interesting situation because we were told over and over the contracts were coming, But it was just one of those things where it just never came. We followed up with it, and we did the best we could in our part. Especially learning from our mistake the first round when our first squad run ended and our flight got canceled. We should have got our own flights, but we were willing to do whatever it took, because that's obviously because Kenny actually lost his job because, he was a school teacher, and then but wrestling was his dream still. So, but so it was a lot of stuff going on there, and then, but then that kind of revamped us. We got back into the independents, came to the UK many times, wrestled for WXW in Germany, PCW. Dude, the UK, I love the UK, man. UK was so much fun. I want to go back there. You guys have great wrestling there. I love the style of wrestling there. And we had a great run, on the indies. We did a shot with Ring of Honor. We wrestled the Young Bucks, so we got to do a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool things. And, and then later on, I guest coached at the Performance Center. I did 4 runs there. So as a wrestler, I also have so much experience as a coach, as a trainer, that's like another podcast session. We could talk about coaching. Yeah. But yeah, man, it's been one hell of a ride, and it's still going, I'm not stopping. I'm grateful to being able to keep going. I feel great, and got some stuff going on in the order. Some stuff I can, talking about now. Some stuff I got to keep to myself. But the future looks bright. I'll tell you that. And we're just gonna rock and roll, kick ass.
Excellent. I would just say it was a 16-man tag. American Alpha, Breezango, the Hype Brothers, the Usos, and they beat the Ascension, the Headbangers, the Spirit Squad, and the Vaudevillains. There you go. Sun Arena, SmackDown, 900th episode of SmackDown. If you
will. 900th. Okay. Very cool.
There you go. But Mike, listen, we're going to start wrapping up. It's been great for these 2 hours to talk to you. But before we do, if people want to get hold of you, where are you on social media? If people want to book you, how do they do it? And what have you got coming up that you are allowed to say?
Okay, excellent. If you want to book me for wrestling shows, wrestling seminars, autograph signings, podcast interviews, you can reach me at my email, the Mike Mondo. My Facebook is facebook.com/Mike Mondo. Twitter, the Mike Mondo. Instagram, the Mike Mondo. TikTok, the Mike Mondo. Man, I train. If you're in the Florida area, I'm a coach at the FTW Pro Wrestling Academy. I coach every Thursday nights there. Brian Idol, being the owner, who's affiliated with NWA. Yeah. So if you want to train, you want to be a wrestler, we are in that area. I have a couple of dates in September. Can't think of where. I have to look on my
No,
calendar.
don't worry.
But I have. But don't worry about that. But if you want to book me going forward, I'm active. I'm going strong. I consider myself one of the best wrestlers in the world. A 22-year-old veteran. 22-year-old veteran. And yeah, man, ready to kick ass and take names, and let's do this thing. Let's uh let's show people around the world what wrestling's all about. Book Mike Mondo. Again, the email, themikemondo@gmail.com.
I think that is a great way to finish. Book Mike Mondo at gmail.com. Mike, it's been amazing going down memory lane with you, revisiting some of my favorite times as a fan. I really do thank you for your time. Guys, listen, that has been the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Please follow us, HTT Buckle, on Twitter, Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast, and all other social media platforms. Review shows, interviews will be live at All In a couple of weeks' time, so see us all there. Until next time, everybody, he has been Mike Mondo, and you remember him as Mikey from the Spirit Squad. I have been your host, Adam Cousins, and until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.